Hello everyone. This video is going to be on how to properly complete your timesheet for the undergraduate research services program, or also if you've just been hired by the hours office, all timesheets for the most part, it's the same process. So although you might not be a UROP student, this is the proper way on how to complete timesheets for our department. So I'm going to start off with just explaining on what the timesheet looks like and what to use when completing timesheets. So I do suggest when you are completing your timesheet to make sure to use a computer and not try to do this off your phone. If you do try to use this off your phone and complete this, it is going to be a little bit hard. And the only reason why I'm saying to do this through the computer, it's because you have a nicer view of how to properly input hours. So as you can see right here, this is the full timesheet. I'm going to zoom out a little bit if I can. Okay, this is as for this, it'll zoom out. So really quick, if you notice, these boxes over here are grayed out, and then these ones over here are red. And the reason for this is because on the red boxes, you're actually required to input something compared to the gray ones. It's optional. And of course, as you can see, this specific timesheet has a holiday. So when there is a holiday, you will not have the option to edit your hours those days. So please make sure to read your timesheet emails because I usually update if there's any holidays that month. And that way you are not stuck working on the day of a holiday. And as a reminder, you should not be working if it's a holiday, because the campus will be closed and your faculty should also not be asking you to work those days. Okay, so to start off, I'm going to show you how the timesheet is quickly broken down. So if you see right here in a day, so if you look at March 2nd, in a day, there's 6 different boxes. There's 3 boxes at the bottom and 3 boxes at the top. This is because if you're planning to work, let's say twice in a day, let's say if you work an hour in the morning and another hour in the afternoon, that's why it has these boxes. So you're able to input your time twice. Or this is also for the students that work 8 hours a day or work at least more than 6 hours a day. So just a reminder, if you're working more than 6 hours, you are required to take a 30-minute unpaid lunch break, which means if you're working more than 6 hours, you're supposed to report right here, when your break is. So for example, if you work from 12 to 6, that's a total of 6 hours, but you're still gonna keep working until 2 more hours. So you take a 30-minute lunch break, you come back at 6:30, and then let's say you're off at 9:30, right? So then that's another 2 hours right there, okay? And in total, let's say that was the only hours you worked that week, you would put 8 hours over here at the end. So as a reminder, if you're working more than 6 hours, you're required to take a 30-minute lunch break. So please make sure you're doing these breaks or else your timesheet will be getting denied. So this is how to complete your hours in one box. Another information that you need to pay attention is these grayed out boxes. So as you can see, this month, the month started on the Thursday and then it continues up until Saturday, which means that these other boxes, although they were not part of March, it's still the same week. So as you know, some of you are limited to working hours. So for example, if you're a UROP student, you can only work a max of 12 hours a week. So what this means is if you already worked 6 hours or 12 hours this last week of February, that means that for this week of March, you're technically not allowed to report any hours if you maxed out your hours on February that last week. Because like I said, this means it'll still be the same week that you're reporting hours. So it doesn't make sense if, let's say, this last week you already had 12 hours and then you're reporting another 6 hours. So 12 plus 6, that means in that week you've worked 18 hours. So if you are restricted to working, like I said, the UROP students, to 12 hours a week, please make sure that you do not exceed what you're supposed to be working per week. If you, let's say, worked 2 hours this last week of February, that means that this week you're only allowed to work a max of 10 hours. So for example, let's say this week in March, I worked 8 hours because the last week in February, I had previously worked 3 hours. I'm sorry, the last week of February, I had previously worked 4 hours. So 8 plus 4 would be a total of 12. Although you're not reporting 12 hours this week on the timesheet, technically it is 12 hours. It is 12 hours in total if you were to look at the whole week together. So that's something to keep in mind when completing your timesheets and when you see these grayed out boxes. So for example, this last week of March, it's grayed out for Saturday. So that means on your April timesheet, you will, if you already reported 12 hours this week, and if you want to report, let's say another 3 hours for that week of April, you're not going to be able to report any more hours because you have already maxed out your hours during March, okay? So something else to keep in mind when completing timesheets is about how you're inputting your hours. So as you can tell, I put 12 and 6. I didn't put PM or AM or none of that because as you can see, sometimes it'll start overlapping with the timesheet. And when I download them, we're actually not able to properly view your hours. So please make sure not to include AM or PM. For the most part, I do tell everyone to work reasonable hours. And when I mean reasonable hours is you should not be working like at 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning. Reasonable hours, I would say, are any time between 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. You should not be working any later than 10, and you should not be working any earlier than 7 in the morning. So just please keep that in mind as well when completing your timesheets. And as I previously mentioned, in a day, you have 6 different boxes, just in case if you work twice a day or if you needed to take a break and you need to report that break. If you only work once a day, I know some people like to report hours. Let's say if you worked later on at night from 12 to 3 p.m. They like to report it at the bottom. There's no need to do that. You can just report your hours at the top. And I know I already said you're not to not please input 3 p.m. if it was 3 p.m. For the most part, like I said, I'm not taking this as you're working at 12 in the morning until 3 in the morning. Like I said, I expect you to work reasonable hours. So I'm taking this as you worked from 12 to 3 in the afternoon and you only worked a total of 3 hours, right? So just please keep that in mind when completing your timesheet as well, that try your best to complete the first box. I do see that some people, if you input right here at the bottom, sometimes you're confusing this with these other boxes over here. So just please be mindful when you're properly completing your timesheet that you're inputting it on the correct box and not the incorrect one. Sometimes I know you're putting it right here and then you're counting it for this specific week. So just please be aware when it comes to properly inputting the hours on each box. Okay, so I think I pretty much summarized the overview of what the timesheet looks like. Another important aspect about the timesheet is going to be this top section right here, which is your conversions of the minutes that you're working. So as you can see over here, I've worked only 4 hours. I haven't worked like any weird hours. But for those of you that are not working 4 hours, or let's say working 20, 21 minutes, 22 minutes, you will have to convert your minutes to tenths. This is a requirement. And in another video, which is an Excel sheet, it will talk about how to properly count the conversions or how to use the Excel sheet so you can count the conversions and you don't have to do the math yourself. Okay, so that's in the other video with the Excel sheet. This video, I'm just going to talk about the conversions and how to input them on your timesheet. So let's say if you're working from 7:22 in the morning and you work up until, let's say, 10:30, right? So right here, you've worked about 2 hours and 8 minutes, okay? So you have 2 hours and, oops, sorry, 10:30. So you have 2 hours and 8 minutes right here. But so this is your time in, this is your time out, and then this right here is your total hours. And as you can see, this is the breakdown over here. So in, out, and total hours. And same thing at the bottom, in, out, and total hours. So right here, it's 2 hours and 8 minutes, but you're not going to report 2 hours and 8 minutes. When you're going to report your total hours, you're going to report it with the conversion. So for example, you know it's 8 minutes, so you're going to look over here and look where it says minutes. And usually it'll be minutes between so for example, as you can see, 8 is not exactly right here, but it's 7 to 12 minutes. So you know that the 8 falls in between 7 to 12 minutes. And you go right here and look at the 10th and you see that it's a 2. So instead of reporting 2 hours and 8 minutes, you're going to report 2.2. So that's how you convert a conversion. That's how you convert your minutes to tenths. So please make sure you're converting your minutes to tenths, or else your timesheet will be getting denied. You need to report it this way because this is the way payroll is reporting your hours. They're doing it with tenths and they're not going by the minute. And also, I do recommend you in general go by the tenth, because you do get a little bit more time for the minutes worked. So like I was saying, 7 to 8 minutes, 8 minutes falls right here between 7 to 12. So if you worked anywhere between 7 to 12 minutes, it's still the 0.2 right here. So let's say you worked 7 minutes instead of 8, you're still going to get this conversion of 0.2, which is why I'm saying that you'll always get a little bit more for your time's worth. So please make sure you are using the conversion when reporting timesheets. If you use the Excel sheet will automatically count this for you, or you can see the Excel sheet so you can see what the conversion will be for your minutes. But if you do not know how, or if accounting is a little bit too hard for you, it is required to use the Excel sheet. So make sure you're using that Excel sheet that's on the second video, so you can properly count your hours, okay? So I'm just going to go over a couple more conversions right here. So let's say this same day, I decided to come in later in the day. Let's say I had more time to work at 12 in the afternoon, and I decided I wanted to work until, let's say I worked up until 2:55 p.m., right? So that's 2 hours and 55 minutes. But if I go to the conversion right here and look, like I said, you're supposed to convert the minutes. You're not going to put 2 hours and 55 minutes. So I'm going to look at where 55 falls under the minutes. So it's between 55 to 60. And if you notice, it gives you the full hour. It's not going to give you the 55 minutes. So instead of putting 2 hours and 55 minutes, this is actually 3 hours at this point because of the conversion, okay? So you wouldn't put any minutes. So instead of doing minutes, it's a full hour for 55 minutes. Same thing if, for example, if I were to work from 12 to 2:58, it's still 55 to 60. 58 falls in between this number, so it's still that full hour. So as you can see, you're still getting that full hour with the conversion, okay? So I'm just going to do another example over here. So that day, let's say another day I worked. Also, another thing to keep in mind is when you're reporting hours, make sure you're not reporting it during class time. So for example, some of you take the UROP class, I know, on Mondays. If you have class, let's say from 5:30 to 7, And I know the UROP class, it's not every Monday, but it's every other Monday. So let's say this specific week, you may not have class. That doesn't mean that you're able to record hours during this specific time between 5:30 to 7. Although you don't have class time on your schedule, it does show you have class. So you may take this as an opportunity to work, which is totally fine. You can work during that time if you don't have class, but when reporting on your timesheet, please make sure to put any input during another time that doesn't include any of your class times that you have on your schedule for CSUOB. So anything on your CSUOB schedule, please make sure that you are not reporting time during any of those scheduled times, okay? So you might have not had the UROP class, and you do have time to work during this time, but because it's on your schedule, you have to report it during a different time. So I know I'm off of work at 7, so I'm gonna just put 7 right here. And I know I work 2.5 hours, so let's say I'm gonna put I got off at 9:30, and then that's 2.5 hours. But as I said, you're not going to report time like this, okay? You're gonna look what 30 minutes falls under. So if you see 25 to 30 minutes, falls under 5/10. So instead of 30, you're going to put 2.5, and then that'll be the 2 hours and 30 minutes, okay? So over here, make sure that you're counting the total. So this is where you're reporting your hours. At the end over here is where you're adding the weekly total of your hours. So for example, right here, I have 6, 2, that's 8, plus 3, that's going to be 11 hours for that week, okay? Let's say right here I have 2.2 plus 3, that's 5.2 hours for that week. And then right here, I work 2.5 hours, so that's 2.5 for that week. Let's say I didn't work the rest of the month. So now what you're going to do is add all of these hours and put them right here where it says total hours. So right here, it's going to be, I believe it'll be 18.7 total time worked for this month, okay? So some tips and some key points to take away from right here. Like I said, make sure to use your conversions when you're inputting minutes. I do not want to see nobody inputting minutes on here, or else your timesheet will be getting denied, and you will have to fill out a new one. Another thing to keep in mind is when you're reporting hours, make sure you're inputting them on the correct box. Make sure that you're not trying to report like if you're reporting at the bottom, that you're not reporting on the next week. So please be very careful when completing the boxes. As previously mentioned, you should be you should be doing this on a computer. Try not to do this on your phone, because it does get a little bit more tricky on your phone. If you don't have a computer, or you don't have access to a computer, you're more than welcome to come to our office located at SSC 120. We have laptops here that you're more than welcome to use to complete your timesheet, okay? Also, some things to keep in mind. So once you're done completing your hours, you're going to sign it off. Once you sign it off, I will be getting a copy. I'm only looking at it that you're inputting the hours correctly. If you're not inputting hours correctly, I will be denying more timesheets now. So please make sure that you're doing this right the first time. Once I sign, I'm basically just initialing off. Once I initial off, your faculty will get a copy, so then they can approve your timesheet. And as a reminder, your timesheets are not approved until your faculty has signed off. So I always tell students to make sure once you sign off your timesheet, just to let your faculty know that they should be getting their timesheet within a day or two. Like I said, I have to sign it off first before they get it. I'm not approving your timesheet. I'm only making sure that everything looks, that everything's reported correctly. Which is why I let you know that, to let them know it'll take about a day or two, because sometimes I might not sign your timesheet right away. So just please make sure to keep that in mind with your faculty. Please make sure to use the conversions, and you do not have to, so as you can see right here, you do not have to fill out all the boxes. If you didn't report time, there's no need to slash it out or to NA it. The timesheet, the DocuSign will let you submit if you have all the required boxes completed. So as you can see right here, I do not have these two completed. So if I put finish, it's actually not going to let me. It'll say fill in, and then it'll take me to the required box. So if you don't work hours during a week, just input 0. So it'll let you go through. Once you input the zeros before I submit, I just want to show you that no other boxes were filled out besides the red ones. If you did not work that day, it's okay. You do not have to do nothing. Just make sure to input hours on the days you work correctly. Make sure to look at the boxes when you're reporting time. So this right here is March 17th. The top ones are for March 17th and the bottom ones are for March 17th. Please make sure not to put PM or AM on your timesheets, because then it will block off the hours and I'm not going to be able to properly view this. So please be mindful about that. And either way, the AM and the PM, you're going to have to report this on your Excel sheet. So I'm going to be able to see whether you are working appropriate hours through the Excel sheet because you're putting AM or PM through there. Okay. So I think this summarizes the timesheet. I'm now going to put finish just so you can see that it's letting me submit my timesheet. And that's basically it for the timesheets.